The FBI has already opened inquiries into over 24 financial institutions involved in selling and repackaging those now notorious no-questions-asked home loans which fueled the house price explosion. Countrywide, once America's biggest mortgage provider, is among them. And now lawyers acting for former Countrywide shareholders are also targeting the company.
A growing family with a lot of debt. A young couple with no down payment. A business owner whose income was hard to document. Every one of them was turned down for a home loan by 3 different lenders. I'm with Countrywide, and I got them all approved.
During the boom, Countrywide's TV ads proudly proclaimed they'd lend to people other banks turned down, and Countrywide told anyone who raised concerns that was okay, because they carefully assessed borrowers' ability to pay. Jim Fuchs, who works for America's 3rd biggest pension fund, says Countrywide's message that they were the most conservative lenders in the industry was untrue. Instead, he claims Countrywide changed its credit scores to make risky subprime mortgages seem safe.
We have found in our investigation that Countrywide specifically manipulated the definitions of prime and subprime.
What's the importance of their having reduced the credit score?
You lower that score, more risky borrowers are now in a category that one at first glance would think, oh, they're in the prime categories. Loan quality was sacrificed in favor of loan quantity.
The question of whether a mortgage was prime or subprime was a critically important question.
Professor Michael Greenberger of the University of Maryland School of Law has been both the top American financial regulator and an Attorney General in the U.S. Department of Justice.
If the mortgage lender is fooling around with the creditworthiness, in other words, somebody is less creditworthy, and changing the definition of prime and subprime, and that wasn't accounted for, that's going to end up being a very serious problem, I believe.
So far we've heard there are lawsuits against Countrywide and Lehman's. Merrill Lynch has settled claims against it in Massachusetts, but this is only the beginning. The British bank Barclays is being sued by a French company which says Barclays transferred risky mortgages from its own books to investments it had previously sold to them. Barclays had marketed these investments as super safe, but soon after the mortgage transfers, they were worthless. The French company's American lawyer Jeff Jarvis said that cost his clients tens of millions of dollars. Investors overall lost many hundreds of millions.
It's our strong belief that Barclays knew what they were doing and didn't want this stuff on their books, knowing it was worth less, and so moved it to our books.
If I've understood you right, what you're saying is that the only reason Barclays authorized these expansions at a time you say it was terribly unfavorable was to take losses off their books and dump them on these investments. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, I don't know what was in Barclays' mind exactly. If they had some other motivation other than to save losses in mind, they know that and I don't, but that certainly was the impact of it all.
This is not the only case where a bank is accused of moving loss-making mortgages off its books onto complex investments held by outside parties. In Southern California, Patrick Daniels, a lawyer representing large numbers of investors who lost money in similar investments, claims a pattern is emerging.
The investment banks, they held tens of billions of dollars of these securities on their own books. They've got a whole backlog of product that they needed to clear out the warehouse.
They want to package it off and sell it to someone else.
And that accelerated in the fourth quarter of 2006 and through the first 2 quarters until June and through the summer of 2007. The pace at which these instruments were packaged accelerated, and you can see that quite clearly in the deals and how quickly they went bad after being sold off.
Patrick Daniels is now also taking action against some of the ratings agencies which investors relied on to assess just how risky the various components of banks' complex investment products really were. Because these products were so hard to understand, the ratings from the agencies were more important than ever before. But Patrick Daniels claims that as the subprime crisis deepened, some of the agencies bent over backwards to provide the super-safe AAA ratings banks wanted.
The evidence that we've seen so far is that with this increased pressure, the rating agencies even further relaxed their models, relaxed some of their assumptions in order for these late deals to receive the ratings that they did.
Are you implying that they were dishonest?
Yes, absolutely. I think they were. They bear a great deal of culpability. They are right up there, hand in hand with the investment banks who packaged these deals and sold them off to investors. No matter how energetic an investment banker, promoter would have been, without the assistance of the rating agencies, these deals could not and would not have been sold.
And what would the effect of that be?
We'd not be dealing with the crisis that we have today.
Patrick Daniels is not alone in making such claims. A report from America's top regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission, published in July, also highlights potential conflicts of interest in the relationship between ratings agencies and banks and recommends reform. Other lawyers are pursuing this idea. Jeff Jarvis, who's suing Barclays, is also alleging that the biggest ratings agency, S&P, failed to protect investors who bought the complex financial products Barclays was selling. In 2007, he says, S&P formally confirmed that the deal transferring mortgages from Barclays to the investments held by his clients would not in any way affect their super safe AAA ratings, but it didn't turn out that way. S&P suddenly downgraded them by an astounding 17 notches, turning gold into rubbish.
We got a AAA rating in July and got it downrated to what they call junk status in August. And a fairly rated instrument, that just shouldn't happen. What happened is pretty unusual and suggests that something improper may have occurred, and we certainly alleged in our complaint that we believe that something improper occurred. All I know is it was AAA in July and junk in August. Usually a notch or two in a month is like a big move, and here it was 17 notches in a month. It fell and fell and fell. Why? Hopefully we tend to find out in this lawsuit.
Both Barclays and S&P declined to be interviewed. They both gave us almost identical 11-word statements. Here's Barclays first.
This action has no merit, and we will contest it vigorously.
Now the statement from S&P.
These complaints are without merit, and we will defend them vigorously.
The allegations behind many of the cases we've looked at are similar, that a combination of complex financial engineering with favourable risk ratings from the agencies made it possible for bankers to disguise the true level of the risk investors faced. But there's yet another mechanism designed to reassure investors which is now having the opposite effect, and it's potentially terrifying.